Welcome to the QB Chronicles, an SMU Football Podcast with Garrett, Gilbert, and Kyle Padron. Join former SMU quarterbacks Garrett and Kyle as they break down each week's game, offering insights from their own experiences on the field. In addition to game analysis, we'll also bring you special episodes featuring interviews with past and present SMU players, sharing their stories and perspectives. Whether you're a diehard Mustang fan or just love football, this podcast is your go-to source for all things SMU football. Pony up!
Welcome back to the QB Chronicles. I'm Kyle Padron, joined by Emmanuel Acho's favorite quarterback, Garrett Gilbert.
Oh, hey. I don't know if I don't actually know if that's correct. I think that's the first factually incorrect intro you've given so far.
Oh man, I don't
Big
know.
Harry
I think
Potter
he's a big
fan.
fan of yours.
Well, I can pretty much confirm that is entirely not the case. But I love the shout out nonetheless. It's good to be back, man. It's been a little while. What's going on?
I know it. The bye weeks are good when you're actually playing, but when you're a fan, it's you're not left with much on Saturday. I know we had Texas OU, which is fine, but it's not the
It wasn't
same
much
as
of a game, was it?
No, it was not. I was watching it with a bunch of Sooners, so a lot of complaining and being a sore loser. The refs are doing this and that, and
They're good at that.
it was not nearly as fun as watching our ponies blow people out.
No doubt about it. We did have some excitement in college football world this past Saturday. There was a lot of good action late Saturday night, especially. Oregon, Ohio State was a great finish. Penn State, USC was a great finish. Alabama was in another tight ball game. Tennessee, Florida was good. LSU, Ole Miss was good. I mean, there was some fun games to watch the other night. And then I got to give Kansas State, Colorado was good. I don't know if we've mentioned this guy yet. Have we talked about this Boise State running back, Ashton Jeanty?
We talked about him last episode, I think.
We'll get into him a little bit further in the episode because he is number one, a problem, and number two, he could actually be a problem for SMU going forward. As far as not that we're playing them, but when we dive into kind of some playoff predictions and that sort of thing, he and the Boise State Broncos are rolling.
They are playing well. He is arguably the best player in the country. I think him and Travis Hunter, he's probably ahead of Travis in my mind as far as Heisman voting. But I do think Travis Hunter is up there in the same class. But I mean, Ashton Jeanty is just fun to watch, and I hope we don't have to play him because I like to root for him and like to watch him. And obviously, Mustangs come first, but and we did softly recruit him on our show here a couple of weeks ago.
Call it a little bourbon fogginess for the fact that I don't remember our recruiting pitch to Ashton Jeanty last episode. Not very bright.
Yeah, that was the Padron shot of the game.
That's right.
In real life.
Yeah, that did it. That did it. Well, man, we're gonna try and get 2 episodes going this week, but let's kind of dive into a little mid-season review as we get revved up for the home stretch here. We got, I think 6 big ones in a row, hopefully 7 big ones in a row with the potential chance to go to the title game that we'll get into. Talking about the first half of the season, kind of, just touch on a couple things that you think have been big for this team, big moments, responses, and then maybe we'll get into a little team MVP.
Yeah, no, I think the word that came to mind as soon as you asked the question and you touched on it briefly was just respond. And I thought, throughout the first 6 games, it was a lot of uncertainty, weathering adversity during different games in different ways, finding some consistency after the first few weeks in the quarterback situation. Going with Kevin Jennings has been a great move for the entire football team, but especially for the offense. They seem to be in a rhythm and playing at a very high level. And we talked about it last week, but they look and appear to be opening up the offense more and more each week. And excited to see, coming off of the bye week, what, the coaching staff and what the players got to work on and maybe, grow that playbook, expand the playbook even more with Kevin and the guys on offense. And, but the way they responded and then, club takeaways got to be, up there as well. I mean, they've been, just causing havoc on offenses, forcing turnovers, a lot of interceptions, scoring, they're probably one of the better scoring defenses. I should have checked where they're ranked, but they've got to be up there. And I think we're the only team in the country to date that has a defensive touchdown, a kick return touchdown, and a punt return touchdown so far through the first 6 games.
We need a block kick for a touchdown soon sometime in the next 6 games, just to kind of round it out. I don't think that's not a hat trick. Is that a quad trick? I don't know if there's a term for that, but
no idea.
We need to round it out.
Somebody call Marcus Hunt, see if he can go block a kick.
There we go. Now we're talking. I completely agree. I think it's been fun to watch this defense. Club takeaway has been on fire, and that is something that needs to continue. We talked about this a little bit after the Louisville game. Obviously, Louisville didn't have a ton of points to show for it, which kind of speaks to the bend but don't break nature of this defense. But when you play defense that way, you got to create turnovers to keep people off the board. And I think that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as they get into the meat of this ACC schedule is, can the defense continue to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, which we think they can with the defensive line that we have. And then can the secondary continue to step up and make plays with those veteran guys like McGill they have at safety? So I think that's the biggest thing to look for on the defensive side of the ball. I think on the offensive side of the ball, you hit on most of this. I just want to touch on a little bit, and we've talked a lot about this, but like just the offense has just become synchronized. There's probably a better term for that. They look to be more in sync now that there's one quarterback running the show. Kevin and Preston both do different things well. And so to get all 11 guys on the same page when you had 2 quarterbacks in there at different times was potentially a little tough and challenging. And so I think, we even talked about things as simple as cadences become difficult when you don't, the claps might sound that, the clap for the cadence might sound different with one guy in there. So you're not getting off the ball quite as explosively. So Kevin has really reinvigorated the offense, and I'm definitely excited to see where we go from there, going forward with him at the helm. I think he's proven he kind of, took the reins and didn't look back. And so it's been exciting so far to watch him play.
Yeah, agreed. And I think mentioned the offense is getting in sync. I think some of that too is Rhett kind of getting a feel for what Kevin does well and having that consistency, both quarterback to, the other 10 guys on the field, but also between quarterback and, coach, play caller, and really getting in a rhythm, third and medium, second and short, whatever it is. These are the plays that I'm going to go to with Kevin. I think he's starting into a rhythm, after having, 4 or 5 ball games to call plays with him now. And I think they'll continue to improve upon that.
100%.
Again, Rhett's, seemingly opened up the offense, and, watching the Lions and the Cowboys yesterday, just the Ben Johnson offense, seeing a lot of those types of plays.
Are you suggesting that we run a few trick plays to the offensive linemen?
Hey, big guy touchdowns, man. I mentioned that earlier in the season too. I love those, but I just think the aggressive nature, the creative play calling, the pre-snap shifts, motions, we're starting to see more and more of that. And I hope that continues to evolve and we see more of that, get some trick plays. Would love to see a big guy touchdown. It's not necessary.
We're not mad. We wouldn't be mad. Just to dive into some semantics on that sort of stuff, the aggressiveness, the creativity, let's just talk specifically about that play that Detroit ran yesterday. Of course, it got called back for a penalty. I'm sure most of our listeners are Cowboys fans. I'm guessing some of them had turned it off by then, but Red Zone showed it. So if you were watching Red Zone, you might have still seen it. Those types of things in the NFL, it certainly has an effect on how you prepare as a defense. But in college, you only get 2 hours on the field 3 times a week, and you only get 4 hours a day total in the building. So you run stuff like that and you think, well, it didn't work. So what? Correct. Yeah. Put that in quotes for sure. But that being said, the time is still limited, right? And you're spending all this time game planning. The Lions probably practiced that twice last week, once in a walkthrough, and then I bet they ran it once in practice, would be my guess. They probably spent 5 minutes on it tops. Well, the team they're playing next week is going to spend 10 to 15 minutes on it or something like it. And that wastes time that they have practicing. So those types of things, not only do they have an advantage in the game you're playing in because they put the defense on their heels, but they have advantages going forward. And I think that's a fun thing to watch when you see Rhett start to be creative with those guys. We ran the triple screen last week and hit, against Louisville and hit RJ up the middle of the field. Those things, while they appear to be simple and something the offense does all the time, they take a lot of practice for the defense and preparation to see all aspects of that play and, what might be coming next off of it or things like that. And so it just helps them. It just helps the offense be the aggressor and keep the defense on their toes.
Yeah. What are you thinking about the rest of the ACC? Have you had a whole lot of time to watch? I know we're at the top with Miami, Pitt, and Clemson. We have Pitt coming to SMU November 2nd. Don't play either Miami or Clemson until potentially in the conference championship game. But where do you see? Obviously, it's a 1 week season every week for the next 6. But where do you see the conference shaking out? Potential playoff implications? How many teams get a berth to the playoff? With kind of the macro scale of where college football is. But what are your thoughts on the kind of rest of the ACC?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think number one, obviously, looking specifically at SMU and our aspirations for the playoff. I think we're sitting at around the 15th or 16th best odds to make it into the playoff, and there's only 12 teams that get in. Right. That being said, we control our own destiny. If we win out, let's see here. Let me verify. We need to get Miami and Clemson's schedule pulled up. If we win out, we have a chance to go play for the conference title, right? You think you got it? Yeah. Well, actually, Miami doesn't play Clemson either. So there is a chance here where we're going to have to look into a tiebreaker. That being said, if we win out, we basically control everything we want to control. And in fact, I was doing a little digging earlier. ESPN has a cool little, call it a playoff machine, where you can pick a team that's there with a chance, kind of click through the rest of their games and see what happens. Of course, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Like you said, this is a 1 week season. Every week we got to go beat every team that's in front of us. We'll get into Stanford in our second episode this week, but there's almost a better chance of making the playoff if we don't get to the conference title game. So it's all those things can get interesting towards the end of the season as we get into late November and December. I think the biggest thing for SMU specifically, because I think the ACC probably has a chance to get 2 teams in at most. You're looking at the SEC probably getting 3, the Big Ten probably getting 3. There's half the 12 teams right there. The Big 12 gets 1 or 2, the ACC gets 1 or 2, and then you maybe have 1 or 2 group of 5 teams that get in. And there's your 12 teams. So obviously all we want is a shot. That's all that's been kind of SMU's mantra since we joined. We didn't care how we got in. We just wanted to get into the ACC. And I heard a great line from I'm drawing blanks on names all over the place tonight. He's a good announcer. Let's see here. I'll find it real fast. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, talking about, beware Joel Klatt talking about beware the team that paid their way into the conference, because they're probably going to whip your ass. And I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was a pretty funny line by him.
He's had some good takes the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he sure has. I know that was, I apologize. It took about 30 seconds for me to find, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah, we're going to have somebody add like a sponsor ad in there.
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate it. I very much appreciate that. But anyway, we're in a spot right now where all we want is a shot, right? And I think this is a team that, not a lot of people are going to want to play. I hesitate to say this because we won't see him till the end of the season, but we can certainly score with Miami. We can certainly go toe to toe with those guys. And obviously Clemson's rolling right now. I don't know what the rest of their year is going to look like. They've been playing some really good football since the since the first week. But this is a team that is going to continue to get better. And for all the reasons we just talked about. And so I'm very excited about seeing where things go. And, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but the greater playoff picture at large is going to depend a lot on how does BYU keep playing? Does BYU keep playing well for us? They beat us in a game that arguably we outplayed them in. They found a way to win where we only kicked 5 field goals. We're certainly a different team than when we saw them last. I wouldn't want to. If I was them, I wouldn't want to play us again. And then you got teams like Boise State and Army and Navy, and you'd think Army or Navy's one of them's going to cannibalize each other. But there's a lot of moving pieces now that 12 teams get in. And I've kind of been monologuing here for a while, so I'm going to let you take the floor. But like this is going to be an interesting last 6 weeks of the season, just with so many moving pieces, and nobody knows what the 12 team playoffs going to look like.
Yeah, I think the 12 team playoff. I know there's always excitement around the 4 teams back when we had the BCS, and people are always going to be angry when the 13 and 14 ranked teams in the country are going to be furious. That's going to happen, but the expanded playoff gives more teams a shot, and I would say in this college football season there seems to be more parity than what I can remember in previous years. I mean, if you go look at the SEC standings currently, Vanderbilt's sitting 4-2 and sitting above Alabama in the SEC standings. Like that's just wild. I know Alabama's number 7 in the country. They're 5-1 overall, but to say Vandy 6 weeks through the year is sitting above Alabama in the SEC standings is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
And then you got
really
Texas and Texas A&M at the top, which is pretty funny to me since it's the SEC was always keep the Texas schools out. They bring A&M. They've kind of been up and down, and then now Texas, their first year is they can't handle the SEC schedule. It's obviously still early, but they're undefeated number 1 team in the country. Kind of funny.
We'll learn a lot about the Longhorns this weekend.
Exactly.
I am interested to see that one for sure.
I think they're for real, man. Honestly, I think
no doubt.
Quinn was rusty last week, but I think the Horns are going to be ready. He'll have knock off the first game back, get some of that rust, and learn from some of the mistakes he made, some of the errant throws early on in the game. But
takes minutes to get back comfortable, and absolutely, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think Texas is the team to beat. You look at all the advanced rankings, the S&P Plus, the Sagarin ratings. Texas is at the top of all of them, and I think they just got to keep doing what they've been doing, and they're going to be certainly have every chance to be one of those 3 or maybe even 4 teams that get in from the SEC. So a lot of fun coming up. I think before we get going, do we have something to look forward to these last 6 games for SMU? Kind of something that you think will be important for maybe an important position group, something like that, or someone who's not been necessarily the star, but been going to play a big role going on the way home this year.
I think before we get into players individual, I think there's one thing to watch, and you and I were chatting about it kind of before the show, but playing 6 weeks in a row, and we've really got 2 on the road, 1 back at home, and then kind of alternating back and forth till the end of the year. I think 6 straight is going to be different and pose some challenges going out west this week as well. So I think they're going to stay overnight from what I understand. So kind of a different travel schedule. See how they handle the next 6 weeks from that perspective. But I think also just, the continued evolution of Kevin Jennings, the play calling. Hopefully we can continue to see, these, weekly jumps and flashes from Kevin. Hopefully he keeps getting more and more comfortable and playing at a high level. And then defensively, we've got to have turnovers, especially going on the road. You've got to find ways to steal momentum, and we're going to be playing in some hostile environments. Not every game. I imagine Stanford probably won't show up very well. From what I understand, their student section, they don't seem to have maybe SMU 2009. But, I think it's, we've got to go steal momentum early in these road games. And then when we, are back in Dallas, it's go set the tone. Everybody show up and support the guys. But got to set the tone defensively and let the offense get into a rhythm. And hopefully the defense can continue to get takeaways and score some points.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about this portion of it, going out to the West Coast, playing at Stanford, and sure, we'll dive into that game more specifically later this week. But you stay the night after the game potentially, or come home and get home at 5 a.m. And then the next week you're going to Durham, North Carolina to go play Duke. So there's not going to be a ton of time to get back, rested. This is an NFL road trip, and you gotta find a way to get recovered and get ready for the next week of practice. Let's say they handle Stanford. Well, going out on the road again for a night game and in Durham is not going to be a cakewalk, regardless of what Duke looks like. And so they're going to have to come out. They're going to have to come out. Not. They're going to have find a way to have a great week of practice, and then get ready to go on another trip back across the country. And that's the cards they were dealt. And then you get to come back home for a short homestand. So I think that's a big key. How do you handle the travel? How do you handle all that moving around for the rest of the season? Because the rest of the games are not. You're not going to Baylor to go play Wake. You're not going to Waco to go play Baylor. You're traveling across the country and across time zones. So the kids and the coaching staff and the strength staff are going to have to do a great job taking care of their bodies in between games.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to move to the next topic if you've said your piece there.
I'm good to go. I think we're going to look at the offensive and defensive lines as being the key when it comes to setting the tone for these next few games. They're going to be the one to find a way to establish things early on in games. They're going to be the one to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks and stop the run game and let our guys that, we've talked a lot about our skill players on both sides of the ball, let them go make plays.
Yep. Love it. Who was, first half of the year is behind us now. Who is your MVP for the first half here?
Well, if you've been listening, you'll know how much I love Mr. Brashard Smith, and I think it goes without saying he's been our bell cow, and he's going to have to continue to do it. The only thing that we need from him is just for him to keep being him and hold on to the ball when he's going down.
Yeah, I think between him, I'm going to go defense just because I'm trying to spread some love here. But Kobe Wilson has become one of my favorite players. Just the tenacity he plays with, he flies around. Seeing some of the videos on social media, he talks about him being a best running back. He's fast.
Yeah,
I just love the way that he plays the game, and he seems to inspire the guys around him too. And so certainly going to be watching him going forward. But I think since you took Brashard, I had to go a different route. But
sure, no, I appreciate that. I think another thing to watch, interestingly enough, is I was just looking at the reception leaders in college football this year, and the leading receiver in college football has 62 catches. He plays for San Jose State. Our leading receiver, RJ Maryland, has 22 catches, and we have 12 different guys who've caught footballs. I think finding a way to maintain that balance going forward, that's another thing that's going to make it hard on defenses. If we can have kind of again, I think RJ is going to make plays every week. We've seen that. He's shown us enough. Brashard's going to make plays every week. But if we can maintain some semblance of that balance and kind of that flavor of the week type of deal where a different guy steps up, a lot teams don't have 3 or 4 cover corners that can go toe to toe with all the skill guys we have. So if we have guys continue to step up on a weekly basis, and it's sort of a different guy every week, Jordan Hudson's made plays. Obviously RJ's made plays. Romello Brinson's made plays. So if we continue that balance, that's going to be another thing that I think that'll be interesting to watch going forward with the receivers.
Last thing, I know we're getting a little long-winded for what we intended, but I think the way that they're utilizing Roderick Daniels going forward is something to watch too. He's been in the backfield, out in the slot, got a lot more carries against Louisville, but excited to see how, again, we keep saying, evolution of all these players, but as this offense continues to open up, how they use Roderick is going to be something I'm watching as well.
Yeah, balance, creativity, and explosiveness. It's going to be fun.
Well said.
Let's keep it rolling, man. We'll see you guys later on this week for a preview of the Stanford game. And as always, pony up.
Yep, go Ponies.